Welcome in, guys. It is Brad with College SportsCast. We're here with a special guest. We got JBR Bracketology, and we're here to do Game Day Pick'em, Week 24. All right, guys, welcome in. It's Brad with College SportsCast. It's Game Day Pick'em, and we are first full weekend in February. So March Madness is just around the corner this time of year. John and I, we always love to kind of chat with the bracketologist or two. JBR Bracketologist is with us tonight, and I am going to introduce him. I want to say welcome to JBR. What's up, man?
Thank you. Thanks for having me today. I appreciate the opportunity.
JBR has been on the show once. It's a couple of years ago. He was on with me and another guy. And so this is his second time being on College Sportscast. And we appreciate you being back with us, man.
Yeah, of course. Anytime.
All right. So John Hammonds is in the top right corner there. He's my regular guy with us. What's up, Hammonds?
What's up, man? What's going on?
So we are part of Stadium Rant now. I want to throw that out there right off the top. And if you are on Facebook with us, we appreciate you. You can help support us by sending stars or subscribe to our page for just 99 cents a month. And again, this is JBR Bracketology. He is pretty well known on X or Twitter. I think that's where he does most of his work, is on X or Twitter. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. I post all of my content right there. That seems to be the best median for for kind of interacting with fans of college basketball. So.
Right. All right. So there is his name and that's his Twitter handle too, I believe. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. At JBR Bracketology.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And of course, that's our Twitter handles there, X handles as well. So, all right, guys, we're going to jump right into this. I think I've got 11 college basketball games that we're going to talk about. But before we get started here, I do want to say we are recording this to have JBR on with us. This is Friday afternoon. This is about 2 o'clock Eastern time, 1 Central. So we are going to actually start with a Friday night game that by the time you guys see this will be on or almost finished. So I want to point that out. That we are recording this with JBR about 1 Central Time, 2 Eastern in the afternoon. So this game is not played yet for us.
No.
We normally don't do this, but JBR,
not.
we wanted to get him on the show, so we're recording this. So this game's not played. All right. So I just wanted to point that out before we get started.
Rick Pitino has just been ejected. I'm just kidding. Oh, goodness.
All right, so St. John's is at UConn tonight, Friday night. I think it comes on at like 6 or 7. I can't remember the exact time, but this will be on or already played by the time this airs. So St. John's at UConn. St. John's is actually leading the Big East. UConn is a 3.5-point favorite in this game. JBR, I will let you kind of talk about some bracketology side of these two teams to start things off. Where do you have St. John's and UConn right now in your bracketology?
Yeah, so I have St. John's, who, like you said, is now leading the Big East. I believe they're in first place by a game and a half. So I have them as my top 5 seed. The only real issue with their resume is that they just don't have many high-end wins. They beat Marquette this week, and that was really their first high-end marquee win to finally give them something of substance at the top of their resume. Their record looks awesome. They only really played I guess three good teams from non-conference if you include New Mexico, but they lost to Baylor and they lost to Georgia in the non-conference. But at the same time, they got into Big East play and they've just been rolling through the Big East. Their only loss is a 1-point loss at Creighton. So, they keep moving up the seed list, but at the same time, you either need really good efficiency metrics or you need really good wins. So far, St. John's just has good wins and they have good efficiency metrics. But if they're able to score kind of that second marquee win tonight at UConn, that's the kind of win that's really going to push them up the seed list even more. My guess is they would probably end up on the 4 line, but it depends on what happens with the rest of the teams on the seed list. We saw last weekend a bunch of teams at the top of the bracket lose. So, you just never know what's going to happen at any given Saturday, right? Or any given Friday. So,
right.
I think St. John's with a win that they're looking at probably a 4 seed, maybe even a 3, but most likely a 4 seed. If they lose, it's not going to hurt them that much because they should still be in first place in the Big East. It's a quad 1A road game. It's not going to hurt you that much. My guess is they would probably still be a 5 seed, but could be close to a 6 depending on what what the other teams around them do. And then for UConn, if they're able to score this win, that would probably move them up to the 6 line. One thing UConn has done really well since they came back from Maui is picking up these kind of elite quad 1A wins. That win at Texas has aged well. They have that win over Gonzaga, and Gonzaga has, kind of been a metric darling, at least with the efficiency metrics. And then they got the win on the road at Marquette last weekend. So UConn's done really well in quad 1A, really well against high-end competition. If they're able to get a win over St. John's, who's leading the Big East, I think that would probably give them a 6 seed. I think being the back-to-back defending national champions, that UConn is going to get, any kind of benefit of the doubt from the committee. And,
a little preference.
I don't necessarily mind that, right? Like, I know that there's other things that go into it, but it definitely felt like the teams that went to the Final Four in 2023 got kind of preferential treatment when it came to the bracket in 2024. So, you take a team like UConn that has just completely obliterated the NCAA tournament the last 2 years. Like, the committee's not going to underseed that team, right?
Yeah, I agree with you.
I didn't see what their quad 1A record was today, but I know earlier in the week they were 3-0 versus quad 1A, which means, basically the 3 hardest games they've played all year, they won all 3. Right. That is impressive because you're going to be playing good teams in the NCAA tournament. So when you're playing the best of the best, how do you perform? UConn has played well. So I think if UConn wins, they're looking at a 6 seed and probably even closer to a 5 than a 7. And if they lose, they will probably remain a 7, but maybe could fall to the 8 line. And then in terms of my game pick, I will take UConn at home. I think that crowd is going to be rocking with how well St. John's has been playing. Rick Pitino in the house. Like, I think it's going to be an electric crowd. So I'm going to roll with the home team.
All right. So Hammonds, you got Rick Pitino versus Dan Hurley here. Big time matchup here tonight.
Yeah, it's probably, I'm like JBR, it's difficult to go against UConn, especially at Gamble. They're tough at home. St. John's has only lost 3 games this year by combined to 5 points. I think it was Baylor, Georgia, and Creighton. They also have a really good defense. I think they're the number 1 rated defense in away games.
If they get this win, that's going to be impressive for them, for sure.
Rick Pitino's team is playing really, really good, and I think they're a 5 seed in Joe Lenardi's bracket. So you're about in the same regard with them, JBR, as you are with Joe. They're They're right on that 6-5 line. They can win with a 4. I think I'm going to take the Red Storm to cover this game. I think, it's just hard to do. It's hard to pick against UConn, especially at home. They're pretty good.
I agree with you guys. Look, I think Patino's got a good team. I think he's going to come in there and play their absolute best. He's going to on the defense. I think he's going to give them fits. To be quite honest with you, but being at home, I think UConn pulls this game out. That's where I'm going to stand on it as well. And then we're going to move to some Saturday games. I think all the rest of the men's games that I have on here are Saturday. These start at 11 a.m. Central Time tomorrow. South Carolina is at Kentucky. Kentucky's lost 4 or 5, and they're not been great. JBR, where do you have them sliding to?
So I have Kentucky right now as 15 overall as a 4 seed. I talked a little bit a moment ago about UConn and their record versus Quad 1A, and the same type of thing applies to Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky has been at their best when they play the best. I posted a stat earlier this week. Kentucky is 4-1 versus teams on my top 2 seed lines. When they are elite competition, they show up. So I do think that Kentucky is going to get kind of the best possible seed relative to their resume and predictive metrics. But, like you just said, the losses are starting to pile up, right? And instead of a potential 2 seed that we were talking about maybe 7 days ago, now we're a 4 seed, and you're like, man, we got to stop the bleeding. But if they win, my guess is they will remain a 4 seed unless they win by 30 plus kind of thing. But most likely a win versus South Carolina isn't really going to move the needle. I think it's kind of right on the edge between quad.
But it is a game that they absolutely cannot let, because the problem with Kentucky is that these teams, these unranked power conference teams, they haven't been playing ball against them, to be honest. They show up and play their best against the best, but then they don't really play that great and lose some of these games against some of these unranked power conference teams.
Yes, no, you are absolutely correct. They do have some head scratching losses. I mean, I remember I was watching that Kentucky Ohio State game in December live, and I just couldn't believe it. I kept waiting for Kentucky to make a run. It never came. I mean, they ended up losing by 20. So,
right.
yeah.
I mean, they played terrible, and they've done that. My question is South Carolina, are they just done?
They're done. Yeah, I started this year doing kind of JBR elimination calls. Somewhat as a joke, somewhat as fun, but I eliminated South Carolina at the end of January. I think when they started 0-7 in SEC play.
I really like your JBR. What is it? Locks and elimination. Yeah. It's kind of neat. I like that.
I do JBR locks and JBR elimination calls, but yeah, once they started 0-7, I'm like, they're just not going to be. They're not going to be able to win enough games, right? They have the opportunities for sure to pick up these quad 1 wins. There's no shortage of those opportunities.
And they've lost so many games by like 3 or 5 or 7. I mean,
yep. Yeah. No, I've watched them a decent amount. My brother actually went to South Carolina, so I've actually watched them a decent amount. But yeah, I mean, they're just the league is.
They're not terrible. I mean, they're not a terrible team. They've just lost a bunch of games by single digits.
Yep. No, I completely agree. I was watching a lot of the South Carolina Auburn game, the game when Janai Broom got his ankle hurt. But I just once you start 0-7, the league is just too difficult to work your way back. 8-10, which is probably what South Carolina would need. Like they're just not good enough to finish 8-3. So yeah, no, I mean South Carolina, they're decent. They are not terrible. Just because they're in last place in the SEC does not mean that they're nearly as bad as last place in any other conference, because they're not. But Kentucky needs to win this game. It is arguably the easiest game you will have in the SEC out of maybe.
And it's at home.
It's at Rupp. You have to win this game. If they lose, they will probably be a 5 seed. I mean, metrically, it's not a terrible loss. Like we just said, South Carolina is sitting kind of right in the 70s in the metric. So it's not a terrible loss, but at the same time, it's one of the worst teams in the SEC. You have them at home. You've already been slightly late. This is just a game you have to win.
Yeah.
Well, and according to FanDuel, the line just came out a few minutes ago. Kentucky's a 10.5-point favorite. So
when I was doing this before we recorded this, there was no lines yet. So
yeah,
that's why I don't have lines.
It's 10.5, 10.5. So
yeah.
South Carolina's offense is not great. They're very challenged offensively. They're last in scoring. Even if Kentucky's defense is not that great Saturday, I think they should get away with this game. And like JBR said, this is probably not going to move the needle much. Now, if you blow them out,
neither way,
maybe your metrics move a little bit. If you blow them out, your efficiency metrics, I don't know, but I think Kentucky comes into this game kind of PO'd after the last couple of weeks.
At home against a team like this is a get-right game.
I think they're
without Butler.
I'm gonna go Kentucky here. I think they cover this. They really need to get back in the win column, and I think they do that this weekend.
This has got to be a win for Kentucky, so I'm picking Kentucky. I figure everybody else is too.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah. All right, the next game we're going to get to is also an early game on Saturday morning. Tennessee is at Oklahoma, and I think a lot of people don't give Oklahoma the credit that the season they've had so far. And Tennessee, believe it or not, I got to ask you this. How does Tennessee lose a game during the week and go from 8-4? Because that's what happened this week.
That is what happened this week.
How? Please explain to me. I've been screaming this all week.
The short answer is that everyone else around them lost. I mean,
7, 8, keep them the same 4 spots into the top 5.
Extremely unusual. I think most bracketologists had the same type of jump.
That's
obviously
insane to me.
The win over Florida certainly helped, and by margin. But yeah, no, it is definitely high.
They had lost 3 out of 4 games before that Florida game.
They had, yeah. No, I mean, I get it. I get it. But then all of a sudden,
I don't understand. I really don't. But I'll let you go, so take off.
They beat Florida, and then when the dust settled at the beginning of the week, they had the best metrics by far. They were top 5 in resume metrics, top 5 in predictive metrics. Every team who's ever been top 5 in both has gotten a 1 seed. So I agree that they're kind of a 1 seed by default. I don't know that they've fully 100% earned it, but as of today, they have the best overall profile to be a 1 seed. But Purdue's really close. Purdue has a very good resume. They scheduled tough out of conference. They have the win over Alabama. Like, Purdue checks a lot of boxes. And Purdue also, a big change this week after Michigan State lost. Purdue is now number 1 in the Big Ten. And we have seen the committee give a little bit of a bump to kind of the power conference regular season champions. And the Big Ten's really good. I mean, the Big Ten metrically is one of the best conferences of the last 20 years. I know you guys are a little bit more SEC guys, but the Big Ten top to bottom is very good. And so I do think Purdue being outright first in the Big Ten gives a little bit more substance to that resume overall. So Purdue is very close. And then you got Florida going on the road against Auburn, but I guess we'll get to that one later. But
yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, going back to Tennessee at Oklahoma. If Tennessee wins, it would be really close if Florida also wins. But if Tennessee wins, most likely they will remain as the last 1 seed. If they lose, it goes down as a quad 1 loss against a tournament team. Not going to hurt them that much, but they almost certainly will get past and will settle in somewhere along the 2 line. Oklahoma had an undefeated non-conference. They had a great non-conference, and then they get into SEC play and just immediately punch in the mouth, right? They've already been swept by Texas A&M. They've certainly been struggling. I have them as my last 8 seed right now. If they're able to pick up a quad 1A win over Tennessee, they're going to be in great shape, probably a 7 seed. And I think at that point, they should be.
Would a win like this lock them in?
Pretty much. I mean, the debate going around online is whether or not a 6-12 Oklahoma team could get in. And I think it would depend on if they're able to score some really elite wins in SEC. If they go 6-12 and most of their wins are over LSU, South Carolina, Georgia, that's not going to be enough. But if they're able to score 2 or 3 big wins against, the SEC teams at the top, right? Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, Texas A&M, those types of wins, those are the wins that are really going to move the needle. So yeah, if Oklahoma wins this, I think they're fine. Like, it would take a total collapse for them to miss at that point. But if they lose, it starts getting a little bit uncomfortable, right? If they lose this, they're probably a 9 seed. I mean, losing to a 1 seed is certainly not a bad loss, but
right.
Well, and you got to consider too, they got some of those early wins in the battle for Atlantis. They got a few good wins there. They've not looked good since then, though. They've lost several games at home. Unranked Texas beat them. They lost to Texas A&M. Tennessee's coming in with probably one of the best defenses in the country, according to KenPom. They travel well everywhere they go defensively. And the thing about Tennessee, they played 5 straight ranked opponents. That's insane to me. And they've already had 4 conference losses. That's even more mind-boggling.
They were 4-4.
It's crazy.
That's part of what I was talking about to start.
The SEC is a gauntlet. It's just every single night it's a war. I think I'm going to go Tennessee here. But I wouldn't kind of count out Oklahoma in this game, because this being on the road, Tennessee has been notorious on the road, JBR, in the past to tend to not play great. The Florida game got blowed out. Last year, there's a couple of games here and there, and the year before that, Mississippi State, I think. So Tennessee sometimes doesn't do great away from Knoxville, Thompson-Boling. But I think I'm going to take the Vols in this game. Oklahoma is just too much up and down for me. And Jeremiah Fears hasn't been playing great as of late. He's not been the same player he was early in the year. But that's usually the case with any freshman. So,
I mean, for me, I'm going to take the Vols, I think, in this game. But man, they just haven't. I mean, even the other day, they won by 4. Over a Mississippi State team who I think has been.
You mean Missouri?
I mean Missouri that they beat the other night by 4. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, at home, I think they probably should have handled them a little bit better. So I'm just not sold on this Tennessee team just yet. I mean, I guess the Kentucky loss, and I know they just beat Florida by 20, but they also lost to Florida by 30, scored 43 points in that game. 30. I mean,
your Tennessee hatred's coming out today.
But it's like, how is a team like, I don't understand how they can be as high as they are. It's very hard for me to understand that when seeing some of the other stuff. So, but yes, Tennessee is not a team I like at all. At all. JBR, did you make a pick on this one?
I will pick Tennessee, but I'm rooting for Oklahoma to win.
Well, I
Yeah,
always root for whoever.
I wouldn't say I'm rooting for them to. I just think this
Tennessee.
kind of win would kind of boost their resume. It would boost them to possibly get in and move into the field. Well, they're probably still in the field. I'm just saying it would help their seeding wise. That's what I'm getting at.
All right, we are going to go to the Big Ten here for this one. I've got Oregon at Michigan State. You know, Oregon won that Players Era tournament, early in the year. Started off with some really good wins. They've kind of struggled in Big Ten play. Michigan State has played really well until a recent loss, but December and January, they were undefeated. JBR, where do you have each of these teams?
So I've got Michigan State as my last 4 seed. You know, they just went out west to USC and UCLA and went 0-2. So they're technically half a game back of Purdue now for first place in the Big Ten. And then Oregon, I have down at number 23 overall as a 6 seed. Oregon had a phenomenal non-conference, picked up huge wins over Alabama and Texas A&M.
Yep.
They have 8 quad 1 wins, which is still second in the country. They've had 8 quad 1 wins for like 3 weeks now. They have not been able to pick up a 9th quad 1 win.
I got a question kind of about that. I've seen it among bracketologists all over Twitter as of recent. Is Oregon playing with fire right now?
I don't think so. I've seen a couple of people suggest that. I think they'd have to really struggle, like maybe 7-13 in the Big Ten, then they would miss, maybe. Because even at 8-12, I'm pretty confident that they would be able to get in. So they're really not that close to missing for me, at least not yet. Like they would have to lose quite a bit more to get there.
I mean, starting out so phenomenal like they did with all those quad 1 wins, it's hard to imagine that a team with that many quad 1 wins could possibly be out of the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, they have, like I just said, they have 8 quad 1 wins. The most quad 1 wins to ever miss out on the field is 6. So they already have 2 more quad 1 wins.
Yeah.
Than the most to ever miss. So yeah, I don't expect them to miss. I mean, they would have to completely collapse to miss. But at the same time, in this particular matchup, give me Michigan State, give me Tom Izzo at home against a Ducks team that just has not been playing well now for weeks.
Yeah, that road trip recently for Tom Izzo out west did not go as planned. But before that, they had been playing lights out. They get to come back to East Lansing. Hammonds, what do you think here in this game?
Yeah, I'm taking Michigan State. I think they get back to the win column. You know, they've been on the road. The Breslin Center is a tough place to play, and Oregon has not played great as of late. I think they're walking into a very tedious situation on Saturday, and I think they continue that little losing streak that they've got. It's just difficult to beat Tom Izzo at home.
Yeah, I've got to go green here. To bounce back as well as they had been playing before this West Coast swing that they went on out to LA that didn't go very well for them. So
and to add to that, UCLA, since Mick Cronin called his team out, has looked like a totally different. Yeah. I guess that's what you got to do now, maybe.
Cronin went nuts, but I'm not going to go there.
Cut your team out and start winning. Yeah. Is all I can say.
Yeah, I'm going to go Izzo in this one as well. All right, Big East matchup. Another Big East matchup here. We got Marquette at Creighton. I think Creighton kind of has a bad rap that they're a not great team, but they're only 1 game behind Marquette overall. JBR, where do you have these 2 teams?
So, I have Marquette as my top 4 seed at number 13 overall. You know, they've lost, I believe, 2 straight games now. They lost to UConn and they lost on the road at St. John's, and now they have to go on the road to Creighton, who has, honestly, one of the better home court advantages, I think, in the country.
They've been very good at home.
I always say, JBR, every time Creighton plays at home, they turn into the Showtime Lakers. I don't know.
They've been really good at home.
They're just tough at home, man.
So I have Creighton now actually as my top 7 seed. I mean, I believe they have one loss. Let me see. I mean, they've only lost once in the last 6 weeks. Yeah, they have one loss since December 18th, which was on the road at Marquette by 8 points back on January 3rd. So yeah, Marquette has been playing really, really good basketball. If they're able to knock off Marquette at home, I would expect them to be a 6 seed after the weekend when the dust settles. And for Marquette, I mean, if they're able to win, Marquette will be right back up on the 3 line, even close to a 2 seed potentially. But if they lose, I think Marquette would probably just stay as a 4 seed, given that it is a quad 1A road loss.
Right.
I think
Marquette's not doing themselves any favors lately. They
haven't been playing as well. I went to the Marquette Maryland game back in November, and one advantage Marquette has is their team is entirely homegrown players, right? So especially early in the season, they've got a big advantage over a lot of other teams that are, heavy transfer.
Trying to gel. Yeah. Trying to come together. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, Marquette, particularly early in the season, I think that's part of why they had such a good non-conference, and credit to Shaka Smart for scheduling up and recognizing, hey, we have a really good team, and B, we've got a team that has chemistry, right? Like we have a team that knows how to play with each other. So, I saw Marquette back in November and was extremely impressed, and they continued that all throughout the non-conference. And then it seems like once they got into Big East play, they kind of just went on autopilot, and, they had been playing okay, but they hadn't really been impressive. And then they dropped the home game to Xavier a couple weeks ago. They dropped the home game to UConn, and then they lose at St. John's, and they're kind of scrambling a little bit. And going on the road at Creighton is not your ideal fight game.
Yeah, it's not an ideal place to go get a win for sure. I don't think. Hammonds, what do you think on this one? I think it's a tough place to play.
I think it is, and I joke with Brad about them being the Showtime Lakers, but when you do play at Creighton, it's the crowds involved. It's an underrated place to play a game in college. And they still got some really good talent. I think Kalkbrenner's still there.
Yep.
This team's not a bad team, and now they've had some lumps early, especially in the non-con when they lost to San Diego State. They lost a few games there, but Creighton's always been, to me, always consistent under McDermott. They've not really been hit or miss. They've always been a consistent team, whether they're consistent losing in the first round or, consistent losing on the road. They're always consistent in the way they do things. But I think I'm going to go Creighton. Marquette's not playing great right now. Cam Jones, St. John's put them on a platter last week. That was the best defensive performance I've ever seen. I don't know if you've seen it, JBR. They had a last possession.
I was watching.
That was, don't get me wrong. Marquette's good defensively, but St. John's might be one of the best defensive teams I've ever seen. Just the length and their size. But yeah, give me Creighton. I got Creighton at home.
I think I'm going to take the Blue Jays in this one as well. JBR, who do you have?
I'm going to take Creighton at home. I'm going to take the Blue Jays.
I think I'll take them.
That's going to be tough for Marquette if they lose 3 in a row. All right, Texas A&M at Missouri. I just talked about Missouri a little bit with Tennessee. 4-point loss to the Vols this week. They get to go back home here against A&M. Tough team. I think they're top 10 in the AP, I believe, this week. JBR, where do you have these two teams, Bracketology?
Yes, I mean, these are two teams that are playing really well. I posted yesterday on Torvik, you're able to go in and you can sort adjusted efficiency by certain start dates or end dates. And yesterday I posted the Torvik adjusted efficiency over the last calendar month. Missouri came in at number 2 in the country, second in the country in adjusted efficiency. The Tigers have been playing very good basketball the last month, and I feel like it's still a little bit underrated, or people don't want to quite take this team as seriously as they should. Missouri's good, really good.
Yeah.
So,
especially at home. They play really well at home.
They do.
And in terms of my C list, I have Texas A&M at number 7 overall. They have a very good resume. The predictive metrics are a little bit lower on Texas A&M, but resume-wise, Texas A&M is up there with pretty much anyone in the country. And those non-conference wins that they scored over Purdue and Texas Tech have really aged well. And then Missouri, I have at the top of my 6 line at number 22 overall. If they win this, they'll be a minimum of 5 seed and potentially a 4 seed, but they would need some help to get up to the 4 line. If they lose, it would probably they'd fall either to the 6 or 7 line. There's so many other teams in that range that it's heavily dependent on what other teams do this weekend as well. But no, I think this is a game I'm really excited to see. You got 2 teams that are playing some good basketball, and I'm excited to see how this one shakes out. In terms of a game pick, I will take Missouri at home though.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I'm going to take Missouri. I like, just the way they're playing at home. Caleb Grill has played really, really well for them. Tamar Bates has played really, really well. This is a really fun Missouri team, and they had Tennessee on the upswing the other night. I mean, it was up 5 or 6 at halftime, close to it. They've just had some really, really good wins as of recent lately. So give me the Tigers. Dennis Gates.
All right, guys. I really like, and I think Hammonds knows this about me, I really like Buzz Williams. I love his defense. I love his intensity. I love Wade Taylor, to be honest with you. So every bit of me wants to pick the Aggies in this game. But here's my deal. I think I'm going to agree with you guys, and here's why. I think A&M struggles from outside in shooting at times, especially on the road sometimes. Missouri plays really well at home. So I'm going to take the Tigers to win this game at home. All right, guys, we got a big one here. This is Saturday, Florida at Auburn. Florida, I think, has dropped to 6 in the AP poll. Of course, Auburn is number 1. JBR, I'm not even going to ask. I know your number 1 overall seed has got to be Auburn. I mean, there's just no way. It's got to be Auburn. I'm assuming Florida is a 2 seed that you have right now. So, what do you think of these 2 teams? And is Auburn – I guess Auburn's not a lock at the 1 because Duke's close, I guess.
Auburn is not a lock for they're not even a lock for a 1 seed yet, but they are getting close to a lock to being a lock for a 1 seed. Auburn really has one of the best resumes I think I've ever seen, if I'm being honest. They have 8 quad 1A wins now. Ohio State got into the top 25 of the net after last night's win. 8 quad 1A wins. The all-time record, all the way until Selection Sunday, is 9 quad 1A wins. I think Auburn's going to beat that. I mean, I think they're going to finish with double-digit quad 1A wins.
They already have 11. Is it 11 quad 1 wins? You're saying 1A, but
they have 12 quad 1 wins.
12. That's insane.
8 of them are in the top half of quad 1.
Yeah,
so
that's insane.
Absolutely insane how good their resume is. In terms of a game pick, I'm not going to pick against Auburn at home in the jungle. No way.
Yeah.
Florida. So Florida, I have at number 6 overall. There's a lot of things I like about Florida. I think Florida is a very good team. The predictive metrics support Florida being a very good team. Their record is beautiful, right? They're 18-3, 19-3. The only somewhat downside is they really don't have they don't have very many high-end wins. They have that home win over Tennessee, and then it's kind of a big gulf between that and whatever you would consider their second best win, right? Like whether that's Arkansas, North Carolina, it's.
Well, they got one just last week against Vanderbilt, which I don't think this would be a tight one. Yeah,
Vanderbilt's an 11 seed. It's like they have a number of good wins after Tennessee, but they really don't have any other great wins. Right. And then their non-conference strength of schedule in the 200s is also a little bit of a demerit. Now they went undefeated, so you can't hold the non-conference that much against them, right? If they had lost a couple games, then it becomes more problematic. But the committee does love to punish teams that played poor non-conference schedules. But if Florida were able to win this, I think that they would have a really good case over Tennessee for the last 1 seed. If they lose this, it's certainly not going to hurt them in a vacuum. I would think that they would remain a 2 seed, but potentially, I don't know everyone else's schedule off the top of my head, but potentially they could drop to a 3 if all of the other teams around them are picking up quad 1 wins this weekend.
I agree with you. Before Hammonds goes, I'm going to go ahead and pick the Auburn Tigers here at home. In the jungle, listen, I can't go against them. However, I will say Florida's guard play is elite. It's elite. It's elite in the country. Elijah Martin, and I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves. And Clayton,
Jr., Walker Clayton was out against Vanderbilt. He didn't play the other night, so hopefully he got injured. I think
this won't be an easy game for Auburn. I can tell you that.
I know, but I got Auburn. Go Tigers.
Every time I hear that, I think of LSU and the old football coach. Go Tigers. All right, Mississippi State at Georgia. I threw this one in. I didn't know if I wanted to throw this one in or not because I think both of these teams are kind of downtrodden a little bit. But JBR, these are 2 teams that I think you probably still have in, but could be close to a bubble.
Yeah, Mississippi State has certainly struggled of late. The other thing that has hurt Mississippi State is that some of their non-conference wins have not aged particularly well. When they beat Pittsburgh by, damn near 40, that looked like a great win. I had Pittsburgh probably around the 3 or 4 seed line at the time. Now Pittsburgh's not even in the field, right? So beating a tournament team by 40 is certainly not nearly as impressive as beating a tournament team by 40. I have Mississippi State right on the 7-8 line. I think that's where most bracketologists have them. Losing at Georgia is not a bad loss, but at the same time, when you're playing as poorly as they have of late, like the volume of losses starts to really weigh on you, right? And this is relative to the rest of the SEC, this is a more winnable game. If they're able to win it, they'll probably jump them right back up to the 6 line. A quad 1 road win is going to bump you up quite a bit. If they lose, they go from kind of the 7-8 line to the 8-9 line as other teams around them pick up wins. And then for Georgia, I have them on my 11 line, and same thing applies in terms of just winnability. Getting a mid-tier SEC team at home, like if you want to be a tournament team, these are the games you just have to find a way to win on your home court. So if they win, they jump right back up, probably to the 10 line, maybe even the 9 seed. If they lose, they're gonna be right on the cut line. But
that's kind of where I figured.
I will take Georgia at home.
And to add to that, a loss here by Mississippi State, and you could probably have that idea where they might miss the whole tournament altogether.
It's possible. I think it's unlikely, but it is possible. Yeah.
It's unlikely, but what I mean going
Yeah,
down
but
that,
a loss by Georgia here at home,
yeah, be even more devastating.
like for them, this is a game, a mid-tier SEC team that at home that they need to win.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Georgia. Both teams have been struggling, but I tend to favor the home team in this game.
I'm going to be different. I think I'm going to take Mississippi State in this game. I really like Hubbard. I mean, shoot, the other night he had, 38 against Tennessee. I mean, Hubbard's just a beast. Matthews down low is great for them. Tennessee, I mean, Georgia does have some players down low. Surreal down low can be a beast. Depends whether or not he's engaged in the game or not.
It was Alabama. He had 38 against Alabama.
Was it Alabama that he had 38 against? Okay.
It was a home game,
yeah. All right. I was wrong. It's the second time this show. All right. But anyways, so I really like Hubbard. I think I'm going to take Mississippi State.
Yeah.
All right. Duke is at Clemson. Now, there's not a ton of interesting games for Duke to maybe lose in the ACC. I don't think. Clemson's a fairly good team. Tough place to play. Do the Tigers have a chance here, JBR? And then, of course, where do you have these two teams?
I do think the Tigers have a chance. We already saw earlier this season when Clemson took down Kentucky, when Kentucky was undefeated at the time, and it looked like they were never going to lose, right? No, I definitely think Clemson has a shot. This Duke team is very good, but literally going undefeated, from mid-November on, like literally going undefeated is hard to do. Every team with very few exceptions trips up somewhere along the way. Even teams that are so much better than the rest of their conference usually drop a game somewhere. So yeah. I think Clemson has a real shot. I have Duke at number 3 overall. If they win this game, though, I think I'm going to move them to number 2. So next Saturday is the committee's reveal of the top 16 overall seeds.
Yep.
And I just feel like if Duke wins this game and they're undefeated in the ACC, they haven't lost since November, they're top 3 basically in every metric. I just feel like the committee, along with that win over Auburn, I just feel like the committee is going to have Duke number 2. It's just a gut feel. And just kind of how I can picture them voting next week. So if Duke wins, they would move to number 2. If they lost, they would remain at number 3. I mean, they have a pretty sizable lead over Tennessee and Purdue on the one line. And then Clemson, they dropped a landmine earlier this week at home against Georgia Tech.
Man, that was a tough one. That was a 3 overtime game, man.
Watched, I guess, a decent amount of the second half. I mean, there were so many games going on. I watched a decent amount of the second half, and then I watched all of overtime, double overtime, and triple overtime, and it was shocking to me that at no point in all of that gameplay were they able to pull away from Georgia Tech. So lost because I had them as my top 7 seed going into the week, and now I have them as a low end 8 seed. If they lose to Duke, obviously not a bad loss, but again, it gives teams behind you an opportunity to pick up wins. Any team kind of right behind them that picks up a quad 1 or quad 2 win is probably.
But you still got them as a chance of sliding out.
In the ACC too, you're not going to get a lot of opportunities either.
They could slide out, but I don't think that they would slide out. I think they have enough on their resume to stay in. I think.
I mean, I'm not saying because of this loss. I'm just saying down the road you would have a chance of them sliding out.
No, if they lost this, they would probably end up a 9 seed. If they win this, they would be a high end 7, possibly even a 6 seed, depending on how the game goes.
And your pick?
I'm taking Clemson. Give me the upset.
Okay. All right.
I think
JBR with the upset.
I'm gonna pick Duke. I just think they're the better team. They're second in the conference in 3-point defense. They're second in the conference in field goal shooting, and they got Cooper Flagg. They're a really good rebounding team too.
Clemson's got that dude down low though that I think if he gets the right attitude, I think he could mess. Yeah. He could mess with Cooper Flagg a little bit.
Shefflin's pretty good
last year.
Yeah. I think Clemson come out fast to start this game. But I think Blue Devils will wear them down as the game goes, and Cooper Flagg just does his thing.
All right, I'm going to join JBR. I'm going to take Clemson at home here. I think Duke's bound to drop one or two, at least in the ACC. A road game like this against a pretty tough home team could be the one. I don't know. I'll take Clemson here in this as the upset at home. All right, Alabama at Arkansas. Arkansas's come on a little bit. Let's be honest. Kind of turned things around. JBR, these two teams. I guess I'll start with Arkansas. Do you have them in or out right this minute?
I have them in the field. I have them as my very last team in the field. They have 3 quad 1A wins now. That neutral court win that they were able to get over Michigan has really aged well from the non-conference. And, that crazy upset win at Kentucky has just totally catapulted them just flying up the seed list. I mean, I was getting ready to eliminate them a week and a half ago.
They were 11-8 just a week and a half ago. Yeah.
Yeah, they were 1-6 in the SEC. I'm like, this team's done. They're not making the tournament, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. Oh shit! This team's got a little bit of a.
Said it for a while. We revived them. We let them come to our house and revived them.
Yeah, no, this is a big game. If Arkansas is able to win this game, I would say that they probably end up making the NCAA tournament. If they lose this game, I would say they're probably more likely to miss, but they still have a chance, right? It's not a bad loss, but it's just a question of, are they going to be able to win enough games after starting 1-6 in SEC play? Are they going to be able to actually win enough games to earn their way in? For Alabama, if they win, if Duke wins, I think I'm going to drop Alabama to number 3, even though Alabama has the better resume. It's just how I think the committee would vote. But otherwise, Alabama would only drop to number 3. I mean, there's a sizable gap between that Alabama-Duke tier and then that Tennessee-Purdue tier. If Arkansas wins, though, I mean, they're safely in the field, probably a 10 seed. I mean, they would give themselves.
This is at Fayetteville. This is at Fayetteville, so
I'm going to take Alabama to win, though. Yeah. I just think they're too good and playing too well.
Yeah, I'm with you. Razorback, they've won consecutive road wins. Is it turning for Arkansas? Yes. But I think, Alabama's just playing better than they are right now. They've won 5 straight games. I think they've scored 80 points in all of them. And Arkansas has went and scored 80 points once through the 9 SEC games. Now, they probably will in this game because Alabama doesn't play a lot of defense. They like to run and gun. My biggest question is who's going to stop Mark Sears? And if you don't stop Mark Sears, who's going to stop Grant Nelson? If you can't stop Grant Nelson, who's going to stop Chris Youngblood? Arkansas is going to have a lot of problems Saturday with these guards. And they don't play great. And
is that his name?
Yeah, they don't play great at home either. But expect this place to be crazy Saturday. I think it'll be a big environment, but I think Alabama gets it done. We've seen Alabama go into some tough environments, Mississippi State, Kentucky, and they've won those games. So this is a really good Alabama team.
It is. I agree with both of you. I will say I've been on record already to say that we revived Arkansas this year, to be quite honest with you. It will not surprise me at all if in the end, come middle of March, if Arkansas is not in the field, like JBR said he had them right this minute, it would not surprise me. However, in this game, I think this Alabama team is one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country. I really think that they, like John said, I mean, Arkansas's biggest issue is defensively, and that's not a good sign to go against Alabama as efficient as they are offensively.
No, I will say their defense has been better the last couple of games. They've really turned it on defensively. But you're going to have to really be on your P's and Q's.
Yeah, but Alabama, it's not a team you want to be struggling defensively on. So I'm going to take the Tide in this game, even though it's on the road. All right, this is the last Saturday game we're going to talk about. I do have a quick bonus right after this. But Texas Tech is at Arizona. Had to throw in a Big 12 game here. I think this is 2 teams that has really come on the last month or so. JBR, where do you have these teams in your bracketology?
Yeah, I mean these are 2 teams that have been red hot. You know, I've talked about that multiple times on my Twitter feed over the last couple of weeks. You know, both teams in different ways, both teams really struggled in the non-conference. Texas Tech played a non-conference strength of schedule in the 300s, and they lost to St. Joe's, and then they also lost to Texas A&M. They really didn't get any good wins from the non-conference. And then on the other side, you have Arizona, who did schedule tough in the non-conference, but they lost to every single good team.
A lot of them. Yeah.
They lost all 5. They had 5 conference losses. And so, you know, we go into Big 12 play, and I'm like, man, Arizona's probably going to need to go 12-8 just to get a bid. And now here they tied for first place as we're going into the second week of February. So, yeah, both teams have been really, really playing good basketball. They already played a few weeks ago in Lubbock. Texas Tech pulled away late. The final score was a little bit misleading, but Texas Tech did end up winning by double digits comfortably at the end there. But no, I'm very, very excited for this matchup. I have both teams at the back end of my 3 line. You know, I think Arizona, even though they did lose all 5 of those non-conference matchups, like I just mentioned, they did play a hard schedule, which the committee likes. They are tied for first place in the Big 12, which the committee likes. And they also have great predictive metrics, which the committee likes.
Tech got a huge, monumental win at Houston. I mean, that's tough.
Yes.
Tough place.
Yeah.
For Tech to win that game with both JT Toppin and Grant McCaslin, their head coach, getting ejected in the first 5 minutes, that's got to be one of the most impressive wins I've ever seen.
Man.
And then they come home and they beat Baylor. Like they're playing at an elite level right now. Like with
that seems like the classic letdown spot with all of the drama that went on in that at Houston, to come back home against Baylor, who's a good team. Although Baylor has also lost a lot of games, but that seemed like a letdown spot given all of the drama, kind of the narratives and storylines that came out of that win at Houston. So I thought that was really impressive for Texas Tech to come back home and win that game relatively easily against Baylor. So yeah, I have Texas Tech, my number 11 overall seed. The biggest concern for them by far is that non-conference strength of schedule, because that's the one thing that the committee really has to hold over teams, because that's something teams can control, is the non-conference strength of schedule. If you look at what Texas Tech scheduled, there was no doubt that was going to be a bad schedule. So McCaslin,
it would be a little bit different if they won them all, but they didn't.
Exactly, like Florida. Florida didn't play, but they won them all. You know, if Texas Tech had beaten Texas A&M, then it's not nearly as much of an issue as we sit here today. But if Texas Tech goes on the road and beats Texas A&M, they would then be 6-0 in true road games. That is a really, really impressive stat inside the Big 12, along with road wins at Houston and Arizona, 2 protected seeds. I mean, that's impressive, right? So the winner is definitely a 3 seed and potentially could be even close to a 2 seed if they get some help this weekend. The loser is almost certainly going to drop to the 4 line, though. And then for a pick at home, I'm going to take Arizona, but Texas Tech is damn good. I really like that team. I've liked Grant McCaslin since he was at North Texas. I thought his teams played tough. They always played great defense. Really good.
Chance McMillan's tough, man.
Arizona's been playing well too, but I agree with you. Tech's been playing fantastic.
Yeah, and the thing about Arizona is they're so up and down. You don't know the thing about Arizona. You don't know which Caleb Love you're going to get.
Yeah, but they haven't been the last month or so. They really haven't been up and down the last month.
No, they played really good the last month. Bobby Hurley still ain't going to put him on his Big 12 list, apparently.
I've never seen him do that or say that. That was weird.
John, who you taking?
I think I'm going to go home. As much as I want to pick Texas Tech, they're playing really well. Arizona's tough to beat at the McHale Center. So give me Arizona in this game.
Gosh, I picked against Texas Tech last week when we did this game day for Houston. At Houston, I thought for sure. To me, I thought Houston would be a more tough game to win than this Arizona game would be for me, because Houston plays better defense. So I think it's been one of the more tough places to play in the country the last 3 or 4 years at Houston. I'm going to take Tech the way that they've been playing. I mean, I think Texas Tech is one of the big surprises in college basketball this season. JBR, what do you think about that? You think that's a
yeah? I did have kind of some preseason predictions back in early November, and someone asked me for dark horse teams, and 2 of the teams I listed were Texas Tech and Texas A&M. Both teams have really played well, and I feel good about those preseason predictions as well. But yeah, I mean, 5-0 on the road in the Big 12 stands out. These are not buy games. These are not gimmies. I mean, these are legit high major conference opponents, and Texas Tech has answered the bell each and every time in the Big 12, and that certainly stands out. So if they're able to win this game and improve to 6-0 in the Big 12, I think that would be one of the more impressive resume components of any team in the country.
All right, so this is just a little bonus segment. Before I let you go, I wanted to ask you, Indiana, Mike Woodson has announced, or looked like he announced yesterday, that he's probably not returning to Indiana. I got a question. Is there a chance that Dusty May leaves Michigan after year 1 and goes back home? I don't know if a lot of people know this, but he was born about 20 miles. He was raised about 20 miles from Bloomington. Is there a chance that he goes back home to Indiana?
I think there's a chance. I mean, I've never met the guy. I don't know how important that is to him personally, but I definitely think there's a chance. Both schools have a lot of money, so I'm not sure it's going to be one of those things where Indiana's going to be able to blow Michigan.
I know that was a curveball, and I like to throw a curveball or two.
It wouldn't shock me, right? It wouldn't shock me. If Michigan ends up a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament, then I think Michigan is going to have a really hard time letting him go without throwing as much money as possible at him. But I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, it would come down to what Dusty May wants. If Dusty May really wants to be head coach at the University of Indiana, then that is what he will do.
I mean, just a lot of times going back home, being a hometown kid, I mean, that means something to a lot of people most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know that was a curveball. I did not warn him about that question, but it was just one that I kind of come up yesterday, and I thought, you know what, that'd be a good curveball to throw, and I like to throw a curveball or two. Hammonds will tell you that, right?
Yes,
Always
sir.
throw him a curveball or two as well. So, all right, Kansas, we all know is in. I wanted to ask you, Kansas State has really been playing well.
Yeah,
They're like 500. They're like 500. Would they have a chance to still get in?
So we talked at the beginning of the show here about how I have my JBR locks and my JBR elimination calls. Kansas State is one of the teams that I eliminated back in mid-January. They started 1-6 in the Big 12. They were under 500. I think they lost 4 or 5.
Yeah, they were 4 games under 500 there at one time, like 11-7 or something.
They lost 5 non-conference games, and they didn't beat anyone good in the non-conference. And then they started 1-6 in the Big 12. So, yeah, I felt pretty comfortable eliminating a team that was 7-11, 1-6 in the Big 12, and had a KenPom of 96. I mean, the probability of that team winning enough games to make the NCAA tournament felt like it was pretty much zero.
And then all of a sudden,
they've been 4 straight, including going into Ames and beating Iowa State at Hilton.
Yeah,
pretty much unheard of. They beat Arizona State or on Tuesday, which they got a little bit fortunate at the end with a couple missed free throws. But yeah, I mean, if they're able to beat Kansas this weekend, they got a shot. I mean, they still have a pretty big uphill climb, right? I mean, they're 11-11 and 5-6 in the Big 12 right now. They're not going to get in at 17-14, which means they have to go 18-13. So to get to 18-13, working backwards, that means they have to finish 7-2 in their last 9 games, which even 7-2 is going to be really difficult. They got Kansas and Arizona this coming week, and then they go on the road to BYU. They go on the road to Utah. They still have a road game at UCF. They have a road game at Cincinnati, and then they finish with Iowa State back at Kansas State. So they still have a lot of hard games left. If they can actually finish 7-2, they will have earned it. Kudos to them. I will have been wrong, but credit to them. It would have been one of the most miraculous in-season turnarounds.
I mean, honestly, 2 weeks ago, I thought they were dead in the water.
They were dead in the water.
I mean, seriously, I thought they were floating, like just floating in the water. No movement at all.
If they beat Kansas on Saturday, that will be the first time I actually get a little bit worried that one of my calls turns out to be wrong. I will be. They still have to actually pull it off, though. Just because
they do. I'm not saying, but they have played surprisingly well the last 2 weeks.
Oh, no question. No, they've gone from 96 in KenPom on January 25th to 65th today. They've gone up 31 spots in the last 2.
Yeah. Indiana, I'm pretty sure, is dead in the water as well. I don't know if you have them eliminated or not.
No, I
mean,
actually next 4 out. Their metrics really aren't bad. If they lose this game, I would say, yeah, they're probably cooked. But if they win this, no, they're definitely
no. If they win this, I agree with you. They're not cooked for sure. If they win this game at home,
yeah, no, it's a winnable game against a good team on your home court. If you win it, you still got a shot. But at the same time, if you want to be a tournament team, as I've said many times in the show already, these are the games you have to win.
Yeah. All right. I threw you a couple curveballs. JBR, we appreciate you being on with us. We ran a little bit longer than I said we were going to do, but we appreciate you being here. Again, guys, check him out. He is a great bracketologist, does a lot of good stuff on X. It is JBR Bracketology. Check him out. There's a whole group of guys that we follow. JBR is one of them that does a great job and putting new material out nearly every day this time of year, right?
Yeah, pretty much. No, it's a very, very busy time of the year from about late January really through the end of March. Because I mean, even throughout the NCAA tournament, I'm posting content and posting just kind of miscellaneous stats and analysis of the NCAA tournament through all throughout March and early April. So no, it's a fun time of year, and I appreciate you guys having me on and giving me the opportunity.
I hope you enjoyed being on with us and how we do this and talk about the games kind of as we talk about it. It's a little different than some people just have you on and just talk strictly bracketology probably.
Yep. No, I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
All right. Thank you, JBR. Have a good one.
Bye.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, that's JBR, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Go look him up. He's a great bracketologist, does a great job. So we appreciate him being with us. John, we're going to end the show. I've got 5 women's games that we're going to talk about real quick. JBR does not do bracketology and cover women, so that's the reason why he left. John and we have got 5 games here to talk about, and they're all top 20 games. This one is a top 10 game. Ohio State is at USC. Ohio State is coming off of a loss. And USC, of course, lost to Iowa last week as well. This game is on Saturday, I believe.
Yeah.
What do you think on this one?
I like USC. I look for them to bounce back.
Uh-oh. I may have lost John. You might have to plug in. I'm not sure. All right. So I heard him say he's going to take USC. I'm going to take USC at home. I mean, I think Ohio State's got a great team. And they're number 8 in the country. They just lost their second game. They lost to UCLA, the number 1 team in the country. That's who they lost to. Ohio State's got a great team. I think Ohio State is definitely going to be in the running for a 2 or 3 seed. However, USC, I expect Juju to kind of emerge here after being beat at Iowa last week. This is at home. So I'm going to take the Trojans to win this at home in this game. And I'm not sure if John needs to plug in to come back or not. But I'm going to continue on. Got South Carolina at Texas. This is a top 5 game here. This is number 2 versus number 4. This is a huge game Sunday, early in the slate. I think this is at noon, I believe, on Sunday.
My phone died.
Yeah, I said you probably had an issue like that. So yeah. I appreciate you hopping back on. Did you want to finish your thought on Ohio State?
USC, Juju hadn't been playing good recently. She's not played the best, but I think with them at home, I think they take care of business against Ohio State. And then for the South Carolina thing, as much as I want to pick –
these 2 teams played earlier at South Carolina, and I'm going to be honest with you, John. South Carolina kind of manhandled Texas in Columbia.
That's where I'm going with this right now. I want to pick Texas, but at the same time, man, South Carolina is just dominating folks, man. They're just going out and they're just taking care of business. They're doing what they got to do. Joyce Edwards is playing really good. Fo Wiley is doing her thing. They're just so loaded. They're just so good. And Don Staley is probably the best coach in America. Not named Kim Caldwell. according to Tennessee fans this morning, because apparently they beat the UConn Huskies last night. Everybody knew that.
Come on.
I'm kidding. But seriously, though, Dawn Staley is a really great coach. She's Hall of Fame, great coach. I think they go on the road and they win this game.
Well, I'm going to tell you, talking about good coaches, you got to throw in Vic Schaefer.
Yeah,
I think Vic is going to have this team ready to play at home. He doesn't get embarrassed like South Carolina did 2 or 3 weeks ago in Columbia very often. It don't happen. I'm going to say this. He's a fiery guy. He's going to be in their ass as far as them coming back home here. It would not surprise me at all. I mean, this is number 2 versus number 4. Texas, I mean, Taylor Jones, Holly, Madison Booker, Rory Harmon. I mean, Texas has a ton of talent as well.
Yeah, they do.
It is so hard to pick against the Gamecocks and Dawn Staley. I really want to take the Longhorns in this game.
But every time we do, South Carolina comes out and they just dominate.
I know. I think this if South Carolina is going to drop a game in the SEC, I think it's this one.
It's this one. Yeah.
If they get past this one, I'm not sure that they're going to drop a game, and they still got to play Kentucky. And that's a home game for them.
They're probably going to win out.
I mean, if they're going to drop a conference game, I think it's this one. And being that they whipped them so much in Columbia, I think Vic's going to really be pushing to get this one. So I'm going to take Texas, even though my brain says I should probably take Dawn Staley.
Yeah.
All right, NC State at Florida State. This is on Sunday. I don't think people realize if there is one team in this country that does not get the amount of credit that they deserve, it's Florida State.
Yeah,
NC State is a great team as well, and this is a top 20 game and a good ACC matchup here. John, what do you think on this one?
It is. I love this FSU team. They're really, really good.
They have 3 players that are scoring almost 16 points a game.
They've won 6 straight. I think they're the record holder for most 100-point
Latson is the top scorer in the country.
Latson is really, really good. The defense has been really, really good too for them. Michaela Timpson, she's really, really good. They got some unbelievable players in the middle. Amara Gordon, Amia Bonner. This is a good FSU team, and NC State is not. NC State's what 14th in the country. They're pretty good themselves.
Yeah, NC State is a heck of a team too. You got Sinai Rivers still on this team from last year.
But I like FSU at home. I think they're playing really, really well right now. They got a tough little stretch here. North Carolina, then they play Louisville at home. So FSU's going to find out some things here the next couple of days and the next couple of weeks. So give me FSU at home. I like FSU.
I think I'm going to take FSU at home in this one as well, but Latson, who's averaging almost 27 points a game, is actually leading the country in scoring for Florida State. Mm-hmm. And she does not get enough pub. I don't even think half the country know that she's leading the country in scoring. She's a fantastic player. Like I said, they have 3 players that's scoring right at 16 points a game or more. And this FSU team is a solid team. So I'm going to take the Seminoles here to win this one at home. All right, John, this is also the second matchup for Tennessee and LSU. The first one, LSU won by 1 in Knoxville. Tennessee is coming off of that win last night. Great win. Great win for Tennessee over UConn. Jim Caldwell is doing an excellent job here on this show. As much as I dog Tennessee, I have give Kim Caldwell all the credit in the world at the job that she's done for the Lady Vols this year.
Well, the thing is, you're jumping off that high into another tough situation. You're going from beating UConn to now you're going to jump in and play LSU on the road. And I think that emotion's going to kind of get knocked down a peg. Because road games are difficult. Road games are hard in college. Whether you're in the
crowd's going to be crazy.
Wow. Yeah, it's going to be
a tough place, man.
Going to be tough to beat LSU at home. So give me LSU at home.
Michaela Williams has been playing. I don't know if you saw her step back a couple of times last night, like against Missouri. I mean, Michaela Williams has been playing so well, and she's the 3rd best player on this team. You got Anisha Morrill and Flau'jae Johnson, who by far is 1 and 2. I'm not sure which one you want to put 1 and 2, but by far that's 1 and 2. And then you got Michaela Williams, who is playing lights out as the 3rd best player on this team.
I got LSU in this game. I think they take care of business.
And Tennessee played so well last night. Listen, Spencer, Cooper,
it don't
Spear,
get no easy.
Spear, Puckett. I mean, listen, Tennessee has played so well, been so close in a lot of games. And I have given them credit. They lost some tough ones. Last night, they figured out a way to win the tough one. So we'll see, but I still think LSU is going to win this at home. I just don't think they're going to lose this at home.
No, I don't either.
All right. And then the last game we're going to talk about is Kentucky. This game is on Monday night. By the way, we will do a post-game Big Blue Hoops Cast show after this game on Monday night. Win or lose, because Kentucky's had such a great season. Ole Miss on the road is not going to be an easy game.
No.
So win or lose, we're going to do a post-game Big Blue Hoops Cast on Monday night after this game. Ole Miss had a tough loss at home yesterday against Oklahoma, who Kentucky's last game went to Oklahoma and won on the road.
Yeah, and Georgia Amore, she dropped 43 on them.
I don't know if she can repeat that performance or not.
The scoring barrage, 7 3-pointers, 8 assists. She's putting herself as one of probably the best transfer player in the country. She followed Kenny Brooks. Her playmaking ability has given Kentucky an opportunity to be a threat in the SEC. I think she's averaging 19.4 points a game. She had a big night, one of those signature nights, Sunday night, that is going to be talked about for a while. That was a special night. They're 19-2. They're 8-1 in conference. This is what's really impressive about this team is they're in a 3-way tie with Texas and LSU for second place.
Yep.
And
the teams that we just got through talking about that are at the top of the SEC, guess who's there with them?
Kentucky.
Kentucky.
And let me say this about this Kentucky team. If you would have said that back early in July, August, I would have laughed in your face. I said, well, we might have 5 wins, maybe 4 at the least. But they're 8-1. They're playing at an elite level right now. They play Ole Miss next. Ole Miss is really, really good. Madison Scott's playing really, really well for them.
KK Deans.
Ole Miss is a great, great team, and their coach, they're led by one of the most
She's a great defensive coach.
He's a good defensive coach. Great defensive coach. But I think I'm going to go Cats here, Brad. I think they win this game. I think.
God, I hope you're right.
They go into this game, they win this game, and they go into is it Texas or LSU?
They play Texas at home Texas. After this one.
You go into the Texas game, and I'm going to say this as far as
that's part of the reason why I hope Texas beats South Carolina.
I'll say it Monday when we get on. These girls need a packed house for the Texas game.
100%, man. It needs to be crazy wild. Not just a packed house. Like, bring your A game. It needs to be crazy wild, loud.
Yeah, because Absolutely. These girls deserve our support just as much as the men do.
Absolutely. And, John, I will say this. Today, as we were starting this recording, Clara Strack was named a finalist as the Lisa Leslie Center of the Year. She's one of 10 that is listed. Clara Strack, as a sophomore, first year in the SEC, is on the finalist list of 10 as the top centers in the country.
And I'll tell you something else.
There's some good names on it. I mean, Regan Beers, you got Lauren Betts. I mean, there's some good names on that list. She's a sophomore. She's probably not going to win it, okay? She's averaging 15 and a half, 9.8 rebounds, 3 blocks. She's probably not going to win it.
I will say lately, though, she's been a key part. When you look down through with Georgia Moore, seems like she's kind of been the glue piece that sticks this team together. And
I mean, you got them two together, and then you've got Deja Lawrence, who is and Amelia Hassett, who are 2 of the top shooters in the country, to be honest with you. And then you know what
I'm really shocked about? That Lexi Blue hasn't played as much as she.
Then you throw in Tiani Key, who has been tremendous as a transfer and coming over and upped her game as well. And then lately, Sanaya Tyler's been playing really well off the bench.
I've just been kind of shocked that Lexi's not played as much as she has.
Yeah, Lexi played a little bit the last game. We'll see. But Claire Silva and Sanaya Tyler have been the main 2 off the bench here lately and played really well. Gosh, I hope you're right. I'm going to take Kentucky because I was waiting to see what happened in that Oklahoma-Ole Miss game.
But like you said, the girls deserve a sellout. Now, they did get a sellout for the Georgia game, which was kind of odd.
Yeah.
I mean, it being the opponent. But
it's a weekend game, and the Texas game is a Thursday night game. So that might be playing.
It might have a lot to do with it,
That might be playing a little bit.
Thursdays are, you work, you try and get off to get to a game. It's difficult during the week. Yeah.
Yeah. The Texas game is a Thursday night game, so next Thursday. So that might be playing some role in it.
I will say this. We apologize. This has been a very long show for those that are going to watch this tonight.
Yeah, it is.
I think we went a little longer with JBR and his picks and whatnot, and which was awesome, and I enjoyed it. big weekend, Brad. There's a lot of good games on this weekend. Florida, Auburn. You know, Duke, Clemson. There's some decent under the radar games this weekend. Oh, by the way, I have a new article out this morning, or actually tomorrow. The South Carolina preview, and then I had one yesterday on the bounce back from Kentucky. Man, Brad's doing some work in the stadium.
Check out our articles. I actually wrote one. If you are a racing fan, I wrote one. If you're an Earnhardt fan, I wrote one about them attempting to make the Daytona 500. I also have a new power rankings article out on women's basketball. And then John's on the ones that he talked about for Kentucky.
And if you want to follow Brad, go on his stadium rant and do his Twitter and his Facebook, because he's such a great example. Everybody get what I'm getting at.
You're funny. All right.
I had to do it. I was waiting for the right moment to do it.
Shit. All right, guys. There is. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, our X. That's been up on the screen the entire time. We appreciate you guys.
For those that don't know, Hallie Fresh will get what I'm saying when he gets it.
Yeah. All right, guys. We appreciate you. We appreciate being part of Stadium Rant as well. Kind of get that in there at the end here too. And we will see you guys. This is going to air Friday night at a regular time, be a little bit long, but we appreciate you guys being with us.
I'll share it out and whatnot once it gets available. So,
all right. Y'all have a good night.
Have a good one, y'all.